Good afternoon, my friends. It is Monday. We're in the kitchen. This is a short video, but I had to share this with y'all. Yes, Friday. Buddy was gifted some tomatoes. Now, these are not in circulation, okay? These have been being tested at the Bossier City, Louisiana Ag Center. And Buddy made a little trip during lunch over, since it was right close to work where they were doing the Homestead Convention this weekend. Vendors were there and so forth. And he got to talking to a couple of people that actually work at the Bossier Annex for Louisiana Ag. And they had some tomatoes there. They've been working on this variety 4 or 5 years. They have not named them. They should have a name in a year or two. But he was able to get a hold of these tomatoes. And when I tell you, the most delicious tomato for a cherry tomato. Now, it's not a tiny tomato. I would say it's half the size of a Creole tomato, if any of you are familiar with that. Very, very meaty, not a lot of juice, low acidic, and I'm telling you, low acidic. It was phenomenal. And I thought, I'm gonna seed save. And so that's what I worked on Saturday morning, was getting all the seeds out. But of course, him and I enjoyed the meat of the tomato because they are meaty. Not an abundance of seeds, but plenty for the size tomato. And I would compare them to a golf ball, a little bit smaller than a golf ball, but definitely larger than a cherry, okay? And it comes with some big, long letters, numbers, and so forth. But from what he understood, this will be prolific. It's indeterminate. So I'm going to be prepared next spring to house it in an area that it won't take over any other tomatoes. So I'm not going to treat this as a cherry tomato. I'm actually going to treat this as next fall's canning tomato, paste tomato. So I think, so I can put it in my little notepad. I couldn't keep up with 13 letters and numbers. I think you and I are going to name it Louisiana paste. Or should we name it Creole paste? Because there is a Creole tomato. But there's no Creole paste because I researched just a minute ago. I don't know what I want to name it. But it's got to represent Louisiana. But I'm going to tell you what, the best tasting tomato to be so small and so meaty. It actually reminds me of Amish paste, a San Marzano, as far as the meat part of it. You know, doesn't have a lot of juice. It's a canning tomato. But the flavor profile is nothing like an Amish paste or a San Marzano. The flavor is more like, it's kind of sweet, low acid, chewy texture, but in a good way. I don't know. It slices and it looks like a paste tomato, but it doesn't taste like a paste tomato. It tastes like a good, juicy, homegrown tomato you would just slice to eat, tomato sandwich. So I don't know, but I'm being upfront and honest with you guys. I have no name for this, and if there is a name that Louisiana is choosing for it to be down the road, I have no way of knowing. So for my memory bank, and since I will be hopefully growing them here and then seed saving year from year, I'm just going to come up with my own name. And I do believe I'm going to call it Louisiana paste. Sounds good to me. But let me show you what I did. I didn't even think about doing a video Saturday morning. And I went to grab the jar and I was like, I need to do a video. So what I'm going to do is tell you what I did, which you wouldn't need to see because it's very easy to follow. So let me grab my jar, show you what the results look like. We're on day 3. I could let it ferment up to 5, but I already see that the seeds that are viable has already settled to the bottom of the jar. And here is my jar. Now there is some floaters here. Can you see? There is floaters. But down here, I don't know if you can see, there is an abundance of seeds. I could let it go a little bit longer, but I'm gonna leave it like it is and go ahead and get these harvested. Now what I did to achieve this is I just cut the tomato in half and I squeezed, and then I took a little small paring knife and I got the center of the tomatoes out. Then I took that paring knife and I took as much of that gelatin, which is nothing more than a inhibitor. It's a gel inhibitor, so the seeds don't germinate too soon. That's all that gel is. So I took those seeds and got as much as I could off, still leaving some of that pulp, that gel stuff, and that's what you see right here. And I just put all of that in this jar. I topped it off with water. I covered this jar. This was Saturday early morning, and I set it over out the way, room temperature. So now I'm gonna bring you to the sink, and we're fixing to get these seeds cleaned and get them drying. Now I will be using a plate. I have found using a paper plate to dry your seeds, there's usually wax on a paper plate, and the seeds to me tend to stick. So when you're trying to scrape them seeds off that paper plate, you can actually damage those seeds, or you can peel that little layer of seed off. But if you use an actual dinner plate, porcelain plate, whatever you have, they will actually just pop right off, and you're not worried about something connecting to your seed like a piece of paper from the paper plate. So I recommend using a regular plate. But let's go over there. Let's see how many seeds we end up with. But all these floaters up here, those are not going to be viable seeds. I can tell you now. Now I'm going to dump them. But I think what I'm going to do is scoop them out. I will do that. I'm going to scoop these out first, set them over in a bowl. I'm going to actually clean these separate from these. When they dry, I'm going to label these as test. Who knows? They may germinate, but if I'm a betting person, they probably won't. But we won't throw them away, okay? We got to see if they're going to work like these are. So let's go to the sink. Okay, I'm going to kind of scoop what I can off the top without disturbing this right here. I won't get them all, but I'll get most. In my sieve, and you want a very, very tight mesh sieve, I'm just going to dump this whole jar down in here. And I am going to give them a good rinse. Let me show you something. See, there's a little bit of that pulp. We don't want that. Using a toothpick, I'm going to separate them. And as they start to dry, I'm going to separate them even more. I didn't want to put them on a paper towel. I didn't want any chance of paper connecting to these seeds. So I'm just going to try to scatter them out the best I can. Then about an hour, I'll come through and scatter them out some more. I'd like them to be separated. And in order to achieve that, you kind of got to do this a couple hours. Just come through with this toothpick and get them separated. Let some air get in there. And we shall see, my friends, how they do next year for us. And if I can get these things to grow and produce, I will definitely share these seeds. Because when I tell you another option for canning tomatoes, this is it. Although it's going to take more than like a standard size paste tomato. So I'm just going to leave the toothpick right there. Now I'm going to take the ones that's in this bowl. You can't see, but trust me, there's probably 30, something like that. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to set them on a smaller plate. And then when they dry in a few days, I'm actually going to mark that bag. And I'm going to mark the floaters to what I am naming the Louisiana paste. Sounds good to me. That way I can seed start these completely separate from these about January when I do seed start, into January. And we're just going to see if they ended up being viable seeds or not, because I just didn't want to throw any of them away. I didn't want to take a chance. So yeah, I'm very excited moving forward, but I'm going to use my little toothpick, and about 30 minutes I'll move them, another 30 minutes. I really want them uniformed and separated, and then I'm going to set them in a pantry where there's no risk of a plate getting knocked over or anything, and let them thoroughly dry, and then I will bag them up. But I had to bring you guys along to tell you a little bit of history of how I ended up with these tomato seeds, because he brought them home for us to eat. It was Lippy that said, when I tasted it, I got a seed save. He walked out and he come back in a few minutes later, and I'm sitting at the table. I'm mad scientist, right? He's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm seed saving. And he's like, well, what's all that? I said, that's for us to eat. I said, I clean one, I eat one. Clean one, and I eat one. So that's how it came to be. So Miss Lippy's Louisiana paste tomato. Boy, that's a tongue twister. But I hope your Monday's going good. Mine's been very productive. It's been very good. God is so good. And we have to just relish in the moment, right, guys? Because things can change so quickly. But as always, stay safe, stay well, and God bless. And say a little prayer that we get these to grow so we all can enjoy a Louisiana paste tomato. Till the next one, y'all.